having a chat with Ortvin Sarapu, who's our guest in the studio tonight, and so we're going to talk about one of the most remarkable subjects that you could ever talk about, and it is a sport, and the name of it is chess. Ortvin himself is probably New Zealand's, well, without question, he's New Zealand's foremost chess champion. He won his first title when he was 26 years of age, and just a matter of a few weeks ago, he won his 20th odd title at 66 years of age. He's been a 20 times New Zealand title holder, born in Estonia, and he's played against some of the greats such as Bobby Fischer and the Soviet master Garry Kasparov, who is the current world champion. When did you first start into chess? Did you have a chess family?
No, my father and mother couldn't play chess at all, but my schoolmate, I was 8 years old when I got introduced to the chess, and I found it very good because I was interested in sport. I was doing all sorts of sports, and mad and skiing and long distance running. I wanted to be like Paavo Nurmi. Now, Paavo Nurmi was the great hero, then 7 gold medal winner. So I did all, and when I got tired after school and athletics and sport, I played chess. So that's how I started.
Well, now, did you pick it up pretty quickly? I mean, 8 seems very, very young.
Yes, my son was 3.5 when he picked up the moves. It's amazing how the children pick up the moves quickly. Of course, they're not playing as good as grown-ups yet, yeah. But they know how the pieces move.
When did you start to succeed in competition chess?
Yeah, when I was in the school, when I got to grammar school, I won a decathlon championship, and then I won the chess championship. And I played basketball and did ski jumping. I think I can almost beat everybody in New Zealand who is 66 years old in ski jumping.
Well, you could have the decathlon too.
Yeah. So the whole sport was my life. It still is.
So you won the Estonian Junior Championship back in 1940.
Yes.
You won the East Asian Championship. You've also won the Australian Championship. Why did you come to New Zealand?
Well, I played in West Germany. I lived in Denmark that time. I played in West Germany in 1949 in a tournament where I met Bob Wade, the New Zealand champion. He went to England. He's been twice British champion and still is there. He got OBE for teaching chess and so. So I said to him, I'm sick of Europe. It was 20 years of war and was not enough chess and so on. I said I might go. I said, oh no, go to New Zealand. I left New Zealand, but there's only one major tournament in New Zealand. That's the New Zealand Championship. I said that's all right. I didn't see any future in professional. At that time Europe was poor. Not like now. Like Murray Chandler now is doing very well. He's making at least 60,000, 70,000 a year.
But that's not much, is it?
Well, that's all stay and food in hotels and everything is free. So there's no other expenses.
So what Murray Chandler is now is a professional chess player, is he?
Yes, already when he was 18. Now he's 29 now.
So how would he make his money? By playing in front of an audience that pays to watch?
Well, there's a prize money and there's an honorarium. He's a grandmaster, so he gets honorarium to play, say 2,000 or 3,000 to play. Then the prize money. The prize money is, some tournaments are quite high, 20,000, 30,000.
Mm-hmm. How would he compare with in the world? I mean, you say he's a grandmaster. Well, let's just go through them. Yeah. Is there a master, an international master, a grandmaster? How does it work?
Oh, well, it goes national master.
Yeah.
That's in every country. You got some national masters. Then you become FIDE master. That is the World Chess Federation master. Then after that, higher is international master, which I am, and Vernon Small. We get 2 in New Zealand now. And then comes international grandmaster, where Chandler is. Well, he plays for England now. And then there's world champion. And the titles I got accordingly, some wins in some tournaments. It's all worked out in a special system, rating system. So, and then of course there's an international grandmaster. You get invitations. Most of these chess tournaments are sponsored. And so on. For instance, Kasparov, New Zealand Hillary Commission offered to hold that world championship in Wellington at the end of this year for $3.6 million prize money. But the arguments between Kasparov and World Chess Federation, so it came out so that they're playing now first half in New York and second half in Lyon. France.
But they they were making noises like about the ozone layer, weren't they, the Russians, that they wouldn't
Oh,
have...
that's spaceman, Russian spaceman, who is the Russian president of the Soviet Chess Federation. I think he was talking something that Kasparov would take no notice, because Kasparov will not take any orders from anybody else.
Yeah.
He said, I'm the world champion, I make any decisions, and so on. So this is only sort of talk, big talk.
Well, this ELO system, ELO...
Yeah. It's a Professor Elo is a mathematician who works out the system in chess to rate them. So my Elo is 2,350. Now Kasparov is 2,810. It's higher than Bobby Fischer's was highest before, was 2,775.
85.
85, sorry, yeah. You are very much
No, hang on, I'm not going to try and tell you anything about this, but I was reading this today in the Guinness Book of Records, and I couldn't work out how they put it together like that.
Yes, well, if you play, and that every player is rated, and then they work out mathematically, if you score, say, 6.5 points, you maintain your ELO. If you score 7 points or 7.5, you will go up. Or if you score less, you go down from your...
That's in a tournament?
In a tournament of players whom you play against. You see, their total ELO points are counted together and divided, and then worked out what you should score. It's a very complicated mathematical system, but it's very good because the whole world has accepted. So even Americans and Russians both agree on that. That's most unusual.
But how long has that ELO system been going?
Oh, it's going about 15 years now.
15, so but like, could you compare Garry Kasparov now with some, as the ELO got him as the top player of all time?
It was past. Yes, it's been worked out from the past. Lasker, for his ELO, he was just a little bit below Fischer's. His life highest score. You see that there is a curve, like they have in a business, a business going up or down. So is your life score of your ELO, how you go up and down and so on. Some go up and then go down and up again, and some just go up and then down.
Yeah, but then how would you, how could you compare someone like Bobby Fischer, who had the top ELO system rating until just this year when Kasparov took over, with someone like Emanuel Lasker, who for 26 years was the world champion?
Yeah.
I mean, Fischer held it for 5 minutes. Basically,
well, 3 years.
Well, yeah.
3 years. Well, officially, but he had never played a game after he won his last game against Spassky. So Fischer, at the age of 28, cut his career off, while Kasparov is now 27, and he's already played more than Fischer has played. He's continuously playing. So it's impossible to compare Fischer with Kasparov, because if Fischer would have played on, he might have gone even higher. Who knows? But if he stops, if he retires...
yeah, but then wouldn't there have been different I know it's very hard to compare heavyweight champions, boxers, or, one era to the other, whatever it may be. But one would think that this Emanuel Lasker, for holding the title for 26 years, would be absolutely a freak. Now, none of the others have done it like that. So, but was the competition harder?
He might be. Well, of course, they didn't have so many strong players in those days as they have today.
That's the point.
And that's why the standard is going higher and higher. But of course, the ELO is worked out in comparison to your surroundings. So Fischer and Kasparov went there, so Lasker could not be compared with them.
Yeah.
But definitely, as the time goes on, you cannot compare Fischer with Kasparov, because there's a big gap of 10, 15, or 20 years gap. So things are changing.
Okay, we're going to come back with Ortvin Sarapu, our champion, and has won also championships in East Asia and Estonia, is Ortvin Sarapu. I know that you will all have heard of the name over the years, where he's been very, very successful as a chess player in New Zealand, and was rewarded with the MBE as well, the same day as Hadley got his, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, well, he'll get a knighthood. I don't know whether you'll get one though, Ortvin.
No, it's for chess. It's not for me.
Well, it's nice though, to be recognised for the sport, isn't it?
That's very nice too, yes. But the chess being recognised, that's my biggest ambition as a sport now, that Sir Ron Scott said that it's a sport now as any other sport. Before it was a recreation. So a lot of countries in the world, they all recognise it as a sport. You see, it's also involved in chess, because most chess players, like Kasparov, he plays soccer and billiards and to keep fit, and tennis is the one sport which is closest to chess, because you make a move and you hit the ball once, and the other fellow has to kick the ball back, or hit the ball back, or make a move. A lot of people say chess is like war. It's not war, because in war you can make 5, 10, 20 moves in a row. In chess you can only make one move, so it's not war. So it can't be compared with war.
Well, it's interesting the way you put that. I would have thought that billiards would have been the closely associated sport to
billiards is the same. You make your shot, and but yeah, so it will be like that. So it's very skillful. Chess is 80% skill. You don't. People, chess players, are from all walks of life. You don't have to be a huge brain. That brain comes out of your ears to be a chess player. It don't need. Some of the chess players have been highly educated, and some have been dropouts. Like Fischer, he only been two years in a high school. He dropped out, and he became world champion. While Lasker was triple professor in philosophy, mathematics, and medicine. And when he died, Professor Albert Einstein wrote obituary for him, because he was his closest friend. So he must have had something to be a close friend of Einstein.
It's interesting. I thought you'd have to be a genius to play it successfully.
No. I have skill and experience, and of course there's all sorts of other things. Physical. I'm 66, and I feel very fit.
Yeah.
And so I can still compete. So if I get tired, then I make mistakes. Your brain gets tired too. So you have to be fit.
Well, so when you're playing a game of chess, how many moves are you ahead? I was listening to Kasparov the other night.
Well, there's no limit how much you can see ahead, but there's a limit. Usually you only look one move, because you are a plan of a series of moves, and so because you cannot, like computers, they work so many moves ahead, and so. But they still, Kasparov beat the world, beat thought very easily, because they just can't think better than human beings. Human invented computers.
He did say in an interview last week that he felt that a computer could beat a chess player, but not a grandmaster like himself, or a world champion. Yes.
Yeah, I have beaten the world champion computer. I have lost to it too, but I think I can take care of it still. Maybe in the next 10 years' time will be a different story.
So why is the computer so good, and why can you beat the computer?
Well, it is as good as the programmer is. It's same as any sport. As good as coach can train them. Yeah. You see, there's a chess is not only that, and there's other things, psychology and body language and all these things. And when you play a young man, he's more aggressive, and then an older man, he's more defensive. And you have to take all that in account. And you have to work, even, for instance, running. You think the runner just runs till as fast as he can. It's not so. The greatest gold medal, as far as I can see, was Murray Halberg in Rome, 1960, when he ran. I don't think he probably would have won the gold medal if he would have run like others and have a kick in the last lap. But he kicked 3 laps to go, and the others thought he's crazy, he must have lost the count or something. But he ran half a lap ahead of them, and then by the time they were catching up, he had a rest, and then he took off again and won the gold medal. I thought that was the most cleverest race I've seen. Besides that race, 10,000 meters, when 3 Finns beat Japanese runner in Murakoso in 1936 in Berlin Olympic Games. They ran 3 till they passed in 3 together, and he had to run all the way around them. So they wore him out, and then last lap they fought the gold, silver, and bronze among themselves.
So how far can you go on tactics in a chess match? I mean, can you smoke a cigar and blow the smoke in your opponent's face?
Well, since the 1st of January this year, smoking in chess tournaments is prohibited. And also spectators. This is the latest.
Is that?
So you have to play in New Zealand too. You got to go outside to smoke if you play chess. While your opponent is thinking, you go outside and have your puff.
Yeah.
I gave up about 5 years ago.
Do many chess players smoke?
At this stage, last New Zealand Championship, 12 top selected players. None of them smoke.
Yeah. What sort of tactics do they use in these big international competitions?
Well, there's
I mean,
so
you just
many.
sort of see the the most famous match that I can think of was Fischer Spassky.
Yeah.
Would that be the most? I mean, they played that in Reykjavik, and four times he got on the front page on the cover of Time magazine. I mean, that put chess on the map.
That's right. And also, even Russians recognized Bobby Fischer as the great deeds he did for chess, because he said all the other sports, paying big money for soccer, tennis, golf, and so on. But in chess there was nothing. There's some early chess players died from starvation. Professionals like Schlechter before the First World War, or during the First World War, and even before, Kizaritsky in Paris. And so. But that's why Lasker said he as a world champion, he is not a professional. He's amateur.
Well, what are the rules then, as far as what you're allowed to do to your opponent? I'm not talking about the game itself. I mean, can you wear whatever you like? Can you have...
yes, you can wear, but you can't talk, because that's why the chess player is not very good talking on a talkback. Because you're not allowed to talk, and when you play, because you disturb your opponent. And then, of course, as me, I'm a married man, I'm not allowed to talk here. I hope my wife is not listening. So, you see, there's not much talking in chess, just the clocks are ticking, and so. But there's all sorts of ways, but you cannot cheat in chess. You can some little bit, but you can't. It's not gamemanship, like standing up and squeaking the chair and disturbing the opponent.
Why is it such a big deal as to where the games are played then?
Well, it is. It depends who likes to play the challenger or a holder, you see, and so it is a bit of a psychological warfare too. Where you do that to get a place where your opponent doesn't feel comfortable, where he got more support than your opponent. So, and the money, of course, nowadays money is really on top. The top 10 in the world are millionaires.
Okay.
But there's no difference between amateur and professional in chess. That was wiped out in 1928.
Can we just go back and talk a wee bit about that game between Spassky and Fischer? Spassky was the world champion. How did Fischer arrive? I mean, did it...
Yeah. Fischer didn't want to play until they lifted their prize money. And there's a banker from England, he doubled it. So that's why he came. Fischer, it was said that he was eccentric and sort of making difficulties, but I know him quite well. I was 3 months together in Tunisia with him. We had a breakfast together and lunch. And
play chess?
He used to, it was all in French, because ex-French colony. So he had always double. There was a choice between 2 entrees and 2 soups, and he had the whole 2 main course. He's a big man, he's a 6'4", and a good boxer. He used to do boxing to get himself fit.
But you're saying he's not eccentric?
No, not as they pay. He was in trouble already as a junior with the press and so on. And they gave him a bit rough time, because he comes from a poor area, Bronx in New York and so on. And then, of course, he didn't allow anybody to take photos of him. He said, they get paid for taking photos of me. He said, I don't get anything, so he didn't allow any photos and so on. But I found he was against the organizers. He was never against the opponent. I played him. We shifted 3 times from the table, because he said the light wasn't so good. I should have drawn with him there. He spent 55 minutes on one move, but eventually came what is supposed to normal result. He won and I lost.
When you say 55 minutes, but isn't there a limit on... I mean,
yes.
There never used to be.
2 hours for 40 moves, but you can spend 1 hour on one move and make the other 39 in 1 hour. So it's up to you. He must have calculated very far.
Yeah. How did Fischer arrive on the scene, though? I mean, was he a boy wonder at chess?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
You were telling his IQ. What was his IQ?
184.
Well, what's the average person's IQ?
100.
So he was a genius.
Yes. If you are about over 150, but of course American IQ is a little bit higher than New Zealand that we're working out. I'm not exactly sure how it is, but had he achieved anything
in chess? I mean, had he won the American championship? Was he a grandmaster?
He was 14 when he won American senior championship. Then when later on he played in one American championship where he won every game. All wins.
Very unusual, isn't it?
That's never been done before or since.
Yeah.
Then he made later on, before he played Spassky, he made a unique, what Kasparov hasn't done yet, is that he won 21 games against top grandmasters in the world in a row without conceding a single draw. Now that hasn't been done. So when he played Spassky, and they are great friends. Spassky, 2 years ago when I played him here in Wellington, I had a draw with Spassky, and Spassky said he knows Fischer. He saw him in America, but Fischer asked not to make any publicity.
We'll come back and talk a bit more about Bobby Fischer because he really is a fascinating personality. Our guest in the studio tonight is Ortvin Sarapu. This is Radio. Ortvin Sarapu, our guest tonight. Are you as good at 66 as you were when you won your first title at 26?
No. The best time, best age for chess player is between 35 and 40. But you don't go down, you go, depends. Some are at 35 already too old. Some are a long time. Like Lasker, he was 67 when he played after 15 years absence from chess, played against the world's best and beat the world champion and finished half a point behind the winner in tournament in Moscow. So you see, you don't have to be, as you saw this morning in golf, the
Masters.
Yeah, Masters. You see, they're old. Well, they call him old, 47. Well, I could give him 19 years,
Yeah.
but he was just as good as the young fellow who was 26.
Faldo.
Faldo was 20. Yeah. So that means you can give a go whether young or old.
It's the beautiful thing about sport, though, isn't it? I mean, everybody thought, even Floyd himself, when he started to clap, when he made that aimed about 25 feet from the cup,
Yeah.
and it nearly went in, and brimming with confidence. But it's never over, that game, is it?
Yes. Well, he made it. You do the same in chess when you get a winning position, like he had against Faldo. He thought, well, he just coasted, but he could not expect him to get 3 birdies.
The thing that interested me is something that you said, that you're not as good now at 66 as you were when you were 26. Now, unlike a sport where you're physically playing it, let me take billiards as an example because I'm fairly familiar with that. I can understand at 66 not being as good as billiards because you've actually physically got to play the shots. And you look at people like Clark McConaughey, for example, our great New Zealander.
Yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah, little problem with the Parkinson's disease. I mean, you know, he was losing it at the end. But in chess, one would think that all you have to do is just move the piece to a spot, and your brain will do it all for you. Now, does your brain not work as well?
Well, moving the piece is only a mechanical part of chess. It's actually man's brain against the other man's brain. That's where the real game is played, not the moves on the board. That's only execution of the thoughts.
Yeah, but with all that experience, why aren't you as good now?
Yes, with experience I'm better than I was then, but I'm not so quick. And I cannot calculate moves ahead as fast as I used to when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yes, but then you've got so much time, one would imagine, to work those moves out. You said
you never have enough time because the other fellow uses all his time that's given. Now they play 40 moves in 2 hours and 20 moves an hour later. That means they've got a session of 6-hour session. And then that's 3 hours each for your moves. And then you have to calculate. If you make a hasty move, you might have missed something your opponent didn't. You see that?
So when you're playing a game of chess, how much time, or what percentage of it would be to analysing your opponent and what he might do? And when have you got him sussed?
I do this. I do, and I've been teaching chess. I've been national coach for 10 years, and so. And my people have won about 9 times New Zealand Championship. Rodney Phillips and Richard Sutton, who's a professor of law in Dunedin now, and Paul Garbett here in Auckland, he's won 5 times New Zealand Championship.
Well, you've virtually dominated it, though, haven't you? If you haven't won it, you've been runner-up.
Yeah.
I mean, and your pupils are winning it. I mean, you're Mr. Chess.
That's right. And Murray Chandler, he's better than me, but I was the one who gave him the basics of chess. I taught him as a national coach. I taught him the basics of chess when he was 11, 12-year-old.
So what makes Chandler better than you?
Well, he's young. He's done a lot of work. He's played more chess now than I have. He's been to
Yeah, well, he's
Europe.
only about 25, isn't he?
No, he's 29 now.
29. Well, you're 66.
Well, he left New Zealand when he was 18. I thought it was a bit young. Or 16, sorry. 16 he left and he came back again. So.
Yeah.
I didn't think he would be in the first 15. He was at one stage first 15 in the world. So he's excellent. He's done better than I expected. That's well, of course, if you're a bad coach, then your people are not better than you. If you're a good coach, your people eventually get better than you.
Yes.
So,
that doesn't worry you if your people won't beat you.
No, not at all.
Yeah. We were talking about Bobby Fischer, the man who single-handedly probably put the sport of chess on the map when he played in the 70s against Boris Spassky at Reykjavik. How did they settle on Reykjavik in Iceland to be the venue?
Well, Iceland offered to hold it because at that time Iceland was fighting for fishing rights because Britain was interfering in the Iceland waters in the fish. So they wanted to make publicity for the Reykjavik and Iceland and push their things through in the world, put in the world's light. Of course, the main reason why Fischer-Spassky match was so high because Fischer was American and Spassky was then Soviet Union. Now Spassky eventually defected or left Soviet Union. And Fischer, of course, dropped out of chess after that. And so that's why chess became very... in New Zealand here, the papers were full of... Every move was printed here.
Yes, I know. Tell me this, had the terms been settled when the prize money was doubled before they started their game?
Yes, well, he didn't come here in time. And then, I think it was later, the banker in London, he doubled.
See, he didn't turn up for his first game, did he?
No, well,
Fischer.
the Spassky, they postponed it.
No,
no,
he never
the second game,
up.
he didn't come.
And then he lost, then he won after that.
He lost the first, he lost the second, because he didn't want the TV. There was a TV taking pictures.
Oh.
Because chess is like weightlifting, excellent for TV, because it's the action is in one place. And but he objected TV to be there. And so he eventually, the third game was played in a separate room. He was 2 down, then he won. Then he won again. And so, because actually, before they met, Spassky was leading 3-0 in some draws in their individual encounter previously. But of course, by that time, when they played, 1972, Fischer was high up because he won that. Before that, he won 21 in a row. Grandmasters, and so he was right in the peak. What happened to
Spassky when he lost it convincingly in the end? What happened to him when he went back to Russia?
When he went back to Russia, because in Russia chess is very highly regarded, and he got a very rough treatment. He said he was a king. He said when he was here in New Zealand, he said he was a king, and then they treated him like a pawn. They stripped him all the privileges, living in the best flat in the best street and so on. And eventually he married that girl, French girl from French embassy in Moscow. That was very funny because when he asked that can he marry that French girl, and they said, oh no. He said, well, I'm so well known, it will be very bad publicity to Soviet Union if you don't let me marry that girl. So they said, all right, you marry her. So 3 months later, he has to leave of absence because he wanted to see his in-laws in Paris. So there was a trouble too. So they said, "Oh, for 1 year, but you're not allowed to play." So he stayed there, and he stayed on and stayed on. One day they came from embassy in Paris, Soviet embassy. They asked him to surrender the Soviet Union passport because he didn't turn back. So he said, "Well, by now I've got also French passport. If you take my passport away, I can no longer play for Soviet Union, I have to play for France." So 2 days later they came and brought his passport back to him, Soviet passport. So, and then they had a world championship, sort of a Soviet Union against the rest in London, and he wasn't picked by Soviets, he wasn't picked by the rest, because they didn't know the rest of the world again. So Murray Chandler, by the way, played for the rest of the world against Soviet Union there. So he said, well, nobody picked me, so next Chess Olympia, that's a team event, he played for France. That was 1984. He played first down Thessaloniki for France, and he's been playing since. He lives in Paris.
Fisher had the title virtually taken from him, or relinquished it, because he refused to play again, didn't he?
Well, the trouble was that was during Nice Chess Olympiad. I was there when Bobby Fischer sent the telegram. He wanted to change the World Championship Series first to win 10 games, because before, now they're playing again that 24 games. If the score is 12-all, then the world champion retains his title. Now, draws counted. But Fischer said, no, first to win 10 games is the world champion. But because he's a world champion, that means if the score is 9-all, then he retains. And that's where the crux comes in. Because the Soviet chess delegation and their supporters said, oh, Karpov has to win 10-8 by 2 points. And Fischer had to win only 12.5, 11.5 by 1 point. And but the other way looking is, if world champion has to play till he wins 9 games, and the challenger has to play as long as he wins 10 games, it's still 1 point difference. So it's a matter of mathematics.
So they wouldn't go along with Fischer's demand.
Fischer's proposal, no. And then Fischer said, well, I resign the World Chess Federation, that's FIDE, World Championship title. But he still considers himself world champion since 1972, because he only resigned the World Chess Federation title. But he hasn't played a single game since, and I don't think he will come now. He's getting 50 now.
Could he play chess as well now as he used to?
That Lasker did, but I don't know about Fischer, whether he will. I wouldn't think he would come back, because he can only lose, and now he goes as a legend into the history of chess.
Yeah. He just went and played, didn't he, in I don't know, Central Park, and just played with kids or anything? He didn't worry him very much, did it?
Well, there was a Canadian, Boasis. He lives in Pasadena too, and he said one day he had a knock on his door, and there was Bobby Fischer asking, do you want to play some chess? So Boasis said, yes, yeah, come in, and they played 14 games, quick chess, 5 minutes again, and Fischer won the whole lot. And then he got up and said, well, goodbye, and he said, well, are you coming back again? He never said anything, he walked out.
So what does he do now?
Well, he's living by himself in Pasadena. I got his address and phone number, which Russians tried to ask me to. I didn't give them because he doesn't want to be disturbed. So, and they want to sort of bring him back and so on. He's very popular in Soviet Union, Bobby Fischer.
But how does he make a living?
Well, he got this prize money, and he was on Bob Hope's show when he spoke there for a few seconds and got $20,000.
Yeah, but that was 18 years ago.
Yes, I know, yes, but I don't know how he makes.
And he's not a nutcase, eccentric, right?
No, he's not. They tried to make out of him, but he's normal as far as I saw him in 1976, and I asked Boris Spassky, now 88, that is he not clear in the head? Is it just clear as anybody else? So it's no. He might be in that way eccentric, and so maybe he's a bit nervous because I remember '67 he was very nervous when he was playing. I think the strain of playing. It is like anybody who's been running 100 meters before the starting bang, before you go into the starting blocks, you're tensed up all your muscles and your thing. Well, the same in chess is that all the time in that whole 6 hours.
Ortvin Sarapu is our guest tonight. This week's Your Health on Radio Pacific looks at the fight against Parkinson's disease with consulting neurologist Bill Wallace, sponsored by Sandoz Pharma, a research leader in the field, and the Auckland division of the New Zealand Medical Association. It's Wednesday afternoon from 2 on Radio Pacific. Now, some great news for lovers of Chinese food. The Seahorse licensed restaurant on the North Shore is now under new management, and without question it is the best value for money Chinese restaurant in Auckland. Generally speaking, food costs have been reduced by 30%, and the Seahorse restaurant features a special buffet luncheon for only $10 a head. You heard right, $10 a head. And the buffet, of course, includes all those favourites from Hong Kong. Seahorse licensed restaurant is fully licensed as well as BYO. It's open 7 nights a week from 5:30 with live music Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Seahorse Restaurant, 7 Como Street, Takapuna, opposite Shore City. Phone number is 461 377.
Dear Mother, just a note to let you know I'm settling back in here, and from my window I still get a great view of Holland's office furniture. Not only have they got a huge range of top quality office gear, Mother, but their prices are as good as you'll get anywhere. Your son, Dutch. Holland's office furniture. Best range, best quality, best prices. Best see Holland's first. Holland's, 32 Normanby Road, Mount Eden, close to the city, the motorway and the jail. Holland's know office furniture.
Now, hail down the roof, gang, because here's a new Actica blowing right up.
At a price you won't believe.
So here's
The stupendously fabulous Royal Easter Show! But you don't have to take their word for it. This year's show is bigger and better than ever. The DB Draft Rodeo, the Australian Beatles Show, International Street Theatre, and all the fun of the fair. In fact, we guarantee a right royal time for everyone, because
You asked for it.
If you thought being a talkback host meant never having to say sorry, think again.
Yes, Pam.
Yeah.
My name's Ross. I'm a bus driver.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to take issue with you on what some of the cracks you just had about the politeness or lack thereof of bus drivers.
That was actually...
You, as a person dealing with the public yourself, are aware that people at times get on. Or
Ortvin to come out, but he never did it.
No, he was Philippine. Mark was offered $5 million to play for Karpov later, but he didn't agree to do.
Great waste of talent, isn't it?
Yes, it's a great waste, but of course he knocked off when he was right in prime. Well, he's going down as an American legend like Paul Morphy in the 1850s. Paul Morphy came to Europe and beat everybody from New Orleans.
So he resigned his title, and you were there at the time when he sent the telegram.
1974, yeah.
Now, who gave the Russians the right to select the world champion after that? Do they run chess?
No, they didn't select. The Karpov was then young. Karpov has never played Fischer, but he qualified by beating Korchnoi in the playoff in semi-final, 3-2, and rest draws. And then, of course, he was a challenger to play him 1978. 75. 74, Fischer resigned the title. So Karpov automatically, in 1975, became world champion.
Anatoly Karpov from USSR, and he was only about 21, wasn't he? Years of age or something. He was very young.
No, he was older than, I think he was he should be was about 27, 28 that time.
And a party man.
Yes, they made him. Well, of course, now Kasparov blames him that he was a Brezhnev man, you see.
Yeah.
And he is a Gorbachev man.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We've got our news coming up, and it's very fascinating between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov and some of the battles that they've had. We'll come back after the news with Ortvin Sarapu, and we'll talk about chess in Russia.
remember...
All right, what have we got here? Weather forecast. I seem to have waylaid it somewhere. I'll catch that up and I'll give it to you, the marine forecast. Our guest in the studio tonight is Ortvin Sarapu. We're talking chess. We're talking about Bobby Fischer, who won the title against Boris Spassky. He then relinquished it. Then went to Anatoly Karpov because he was the top challenger. And Karpov had some interesting games against Korchnoi.
That's right.
There were, I think, two games from memory.
Two matches. Yeah. One in Philippines, Bugoyo.
Yeah.
And the other one, Meran, Italy.
One was very close too. I think it was the
first one was very, very close. It was 5-all, and then draws didn't count. They followed Fischer's advice, and then Karpov won, making it 6-5. And then, of course, 3 years later in Meran, but then Korchnoi, being older and off form, Karpov won convincingly. And he got from Brezhnev a special medal as a sportsman of the year, and etc., because Korchnoi was a defector, and that suited them very good to beat the defector. And then, of course, after that came along the younger man, and from Baku, Azerbaijan, Kasparov, a brilliant young man who is present world champion.
He's an interesting person to... I've heard him interviewed and seen him interviewed on several occasions. He doesn't give the impression that he's a Russian with any great
well,
love.
he's not Russian at all. His mother is Armenian, which is also there in Caucasia. And then his father was from Israeli. Name is Weinstein, Harry Weinstein. And he changed it to Kasparov, because of Caspian Sea. So it sounds like, you know, man from Caspian Sea, Kasparov.
Yeah. He was speaking out last week very, very loudly on a talk show in America as regards the Armenian problem.
Armenian and Azerbaijani Christians against Muslims there. And so he escaped to Moscow. He said it was like a Sherlock Holmes story, how he got his wife, his mother, he's not married, his mother and his brothers and sisters out. And he also said that he could live in the West too if he wanted, but it won't be very good for the world chess. He rather stays and lives everywhere, because he's a multi-millionaire by now, with his chess and computers and so on. So
there's no danger, is there, that the KGB will grab him, or are those days gone?
They can't do anything against him because he's so well known, so high up, and now anyway, KGB now is melting down. They're covering themselves up, and the Gorbachev is clipping the wings.
Do you think that it's been totally political, the game of chess?
Very much involved, especially in Soviet Union. Chess and politics in Soviet is very highly. Not so in the United States, but it's same as South Africa has rugby, very political too, involved with politics. And same in Soviet Union is the chess. If they lose the title, that is a great national disaster.
Tell me this, the Russians held it for a long, long time, although there was this we talked about earlier on, this Dr. Emanuel Lasker, who held that title for 26 years. He was a German.
Well, he was German Jew. He's from Jews. Mostly best players in the world are Jews. Some reason or other, I don't know. But all this, Botvinnik was a Jew, and the Spassky is part Jew, and the Kasparov is part Jew. Not Karpov. Karpov is Russian.
These two...
Fischer is part Jew.
Karpov will play Kasparov again. It seems obvious it's going to be soon too.
In October this year in New York.
Who's going to win that game?
Well, I'm backing Kasparov because Karpov is getting on. He's 12 years older, and Kasparov is just coming right now. He's getting 27 now. He's a young man.
Can we just go back a wee while to the first time they met, or was it the first time?
First time, 85.
Yeah. Now there was a big drama about that because the Russians canned the game because of this. Can you just explain? I forget.
Well, what happened there was that Karpov was having a lead of 5 wins to none, and all you need is one more win to retain his title. Now Kasparov played so that he could not, and both tried. They had over 40 draws. Then gradually Kasparov caught up, and it was score of Kasparov 3 wins. He won 2 in a row, and Karpov had still 5-3, and then the Russian Chess Federation and the president of the World Chess Federation, Florencio Campomanes, they intervened. And then next one was Seville, where Karpov nearly got it back. He did well at the end, and he was leading 12-11 with 1 game to go. And if Karpov could draw that, he would have won the title, 12.5, 11.5. But Kasparov managed to pull all himself together, and he won, making a score 12-all. That means Kasparov is still world champion. Now we'll see in October in New York how I'm backing Kasparov to retain his title.
Let me ask you about the advisors. Now you're allowed to accept advice, aren't you, from all grandmasters that apparently surround these people?
Well, yes, but not during the game.
No, but they seal a move, don't they? And then they go away.
Oh, when it's adjourned, yes. Then, of course, there's no way of controlling. What happened when I played in Interzonal in Tunisia in 1967, I had a adjourned game against Geller of Soviet Union, and it was a drawish game. And I didn't have any seconds or helpers. I was tired, I went to bed. But the 9 Soviet grandmasters analyzed all night that adjourned position and found this and this ways. And then, of course, Geller, afterwards, I lost the game. Geller showed me that till 5 o'clock in the morning they worked worked on it, and they found how I could have drawn it. And he was so, after he won, he was so kind to show me how I could have drawn it. Of course, I couldn't work it out. But that's how they do.
But is that fair?
It's not fair, but they're trying to stop. It's very difficult to stop it. Because while he was sleeping, the others worked and they showed
Yes,
him.
but shouldn't you play the game till it's finished?
Well, now we have a new rule that we don't play 40 moves in 2 hours or 2.5 hours. We have 60 moves as a limit. So by the time 60 moves are played, 95% of games are finished. And those are not finished, it's easy to find out. It doesn't matter how many helpers or what you have. I got over that problem that way.
When you're sitting there and your opponent is taking a long time to make his move, what are you thinking of? I mean, are you satisfied with your move?
I rest from concentration, or I also do working out if I would be him. What would I have worked out? You see, I make plans for him, but if I would be him, so that means I'm playing both sides. A lot of people in clubs don't do that. They only work what they can do.
Yeah.
They don't look what they.
But do you have to do that? I mean, could you go out and have a workout in a gymnasium while he's making up his mind, or do you have to?
I could do that, but I don't need to board, because most of the top masters, they can think about the game while not looking at the board. They got a chessboard in the mind. I play 20 games blindfold chess same time, so one game when I'm playing, I can visualize chessboard in my mind.
So you can actually play 20 games?
Yes, I play.
And not have a board?
No.
Kasparov the other night played a fellow called David Letterman on television. He played him on a telephone and he never had a board in front of him.
Yes, that's no problem.
And knocked him off as quick as you could.
No problem. You play just as good one board without board. But of course, if you play more, world record is 50 blindfold games at the same time. We've got Ewan Green here in Auckland. He wants to beat it. This year he wants to play 52 games blindfold.
So you can memorize 50 boards?
Yes.
Oh, that's hard to believe.
50 boards, and there's 32 pieces on each board.
Well, how do you do it?
Well, it's, well, I do. I don't know how others do. I do it this way, that I visualize in front of my eyes. Now, you have seen the painting Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. Now, if you
haven't
look at
seen
that,
the painting.
Yeah, well, yeah, not the original, but if you look at that painting and you close your eyes, you still visualize that picture in front of your closed eyes. Well, the same, I visualize the whole chessboard.
Yes, but once that's fair enough. But when
20 is all right. You got 20 different. It's just the same.
What is it such a big deal about black and white?
White has first move. That means he has a slight initiative. Statistically speaking, out of 10, white should win 5.5, 4.5 against black. That's when you take thousands and thousands of chess games, and white has that small advantage, which is not very much usually. It's mind you, as being white, you can make the first mistake before black makes.
They talk about different systems. He's playing X, system.
Well, of course, the chess games are recorded, and all the games and so on are in the books, and so I have 500 books, chess books. It was given to me by Fairhurst and others, and I bought myself and so on. I will have to live about 200 or 300 years before I read them all. But it's all recorded and so on, and then you find how you play against the book, you see.
Is there a ton of money in it now? You're saying that there are several millionaires in it.
Yes, but it's not like other sports where they have more. In chess, it's maybe about first top 10 well awarded with money, because chess is not a spectator game, because you don't get big. In chess, you have to be a fairly good player before you understand. In other sports, in soccer, you can see when they score a goal. Well, you don't have to know very much about soccer to enjoy it. But in chess, you would not enjoy unless you have certain amount of knowledge of the game.
The fact that Gorbachev is in the attitude that he's now adopting to the rest of the world, perestroika or whatever, glasnost. Do you think that they're going to take as much competitive interest in their champion now as they used to?
Oh, I think it's still the same. Still the same, because it's so popular. There's over 10 million players in Soviet Union, and chess been already a long time, and they've been winning all the time. The world's individual and a team. Now, lately, in last 3 Olympiads, England came out of doldrums and been second in the world now, and the United States and Hungary are fighting for third, fourth places. That's about the top of chess today.
It's been reported in the Olympics, the Soviet Union, that I'm talking about the Olympics as we know them, that if you show any promise as a child from the cradle, you're put into a camp, and that's how they get their gymnasts.
Yes.
Do they do that with chess?
Oh, yes, yes. They do the same in the United States, in these universities, these scholarships too.
Really?
That's the big countries can afford. New Zealand
yeah.
I remember when Peter Snell and Halberg ran from house to house to collect money for the Olympic team, which I thought was very degrading.
Yeah, well, it was, didn't it? Even the public of Auckland had to have a whip around to get Arthur Lydiard over there as the coach.
Yeah.
Terrible, wasn't it?
What a great coach, yeah.
Eh? 3 golds and a bronze in the one Olympiad.
Yeah, and what about when he was in Finland? He was very...
Well, that's right. They wouldn't have won him here, so he went over there and he produced the Olympic champions.
Nice.
Yeah, Lassie Viren.
Yeah, Lassie Viren.
Tell me that the Chinese get into this. You read about the Germans, the Cubans, and all the rest of it, and the Americans and the Russians. Where's China in this scene?
China's improving in chess all the time now. For a long time, they were not allowed to play chess. Like in the Middle Ages in France, the chess players were shot or hanged. They didn't like that because they thought that the monks and so on, they don't pray enough and play chess all the time. So Mao Zedong, that was decadent Western culture, chess. But of course, it's now they're coming in, and they will be a force to reckon with.
I want to come back and talk about some of the unique chess sets that you may have seen. I know that when we go to various places, whether it's duty-free or whatever, there's always a chess set. It's quite different. Come back talking with Ortvin Sarapu. We were talking with Ortvin Sarapu. It would have been great if we'd have had the World Championship here, but it was just not possible because of dollars.
Yes, it's we offered more. The Hillary Commission offered more, 3.6 million. Yeah. And the government would guarantee and so, but Lyon and France 3 million. But the argument between the two associations, Hillary Commission asked that they will only do that if the world champion Kasparov gives a guarantee that he plays. But the World Chess Federation said they cannot because Kasparov is heading his own federation, the Grandmaster Association. So they decided on Lyon. But now Lyon couldn't hold it, so now it's October, New York, half, 12 games and 12 games in Lyon. So that's the World Championship match.
What would it have meant for New Zealand? I mean, if they'd have played at Wellington, wherever it may have been.
Yes, in Michael Fowler's Centre, they were all for it. But, well, I don't think New Zealand chess would earn very much.
No, but would a lot of people come and watch it?
Oh, of course, they have at least about 600 people, reporters and so on, from all over the world, and it will be on satellite, and so New Zealand will get, would have got great publicity of.
But would they have done television coverage of it?
Oh yes, satellite coverage. Yeah, they would have paid half of it back what New Zealand would offer.
I mean, they could put it on, couldn't they, and have it on television, and you could have an expert like yourself explaining it to laymen like myself, and so it can all be understood.
There's plenty of others there too.
Sure. From
but
England. it was a commercial proposition.
Yeah, well, it was very good. I think probably they wouldn't make money, but they would have covered it. And the publicity for New Zealand would have been tremendous. That's what Iceland did 72, because they were in a sort of a dispute about fishing rights, and they put Iceland into high in the world news to say chess is much more.
Well, it was the same. It was the same with the Foreman Ali fight in Zaire, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
3 o'clock in the morning, they got out and fight
Zaire now
to hook into American time zones. You know,
right, yeah.
That's what it's about. And these unique chess sets and the expensive ones. I mean, what is the most expensive chess set you've ever seen?
Oh,
they are a gimmick, aren't they?
Yeah, well, the $30,000 or $40,000. I don't know exactly the price, but they are usually decorations, just because they're not very good as a player. We play usually cheapest chess sets, but they're more Staunton style. Staunton from England 150 years ago. He designed that, and that was accepted tournament chess. It's not so hard on your eyes, and so on, and the right size, etc. But these others, they're very, very beautiful. We have some huge chess sets here. There's one is here in Auckland, that building. what's the name of that building there? They got a big, huge
Chase
wooden...
Plaza?
Chase, yeah, that's right. Or a former Chase Plaza. And nobody plays with it. I was just 2 weeks ago I was invited to open a plastic chess set in Mount Maunganui. And I played a game against Mayor and his 5 advisors, and they came second best. Then I played against 16 top players at Mount Maunganui, and one of them from Te Puke was the last one to lose. The rest lost to me early. So I had a clean sweep there. But
do you think it's degrading that you have to do these things? I mean, you look at correspondence chess, speed chess, blind chess, and that. I mean, or is that just an accepted?
Well, that's all sorts of chess. There are correspondence and some blindfold chess, and etc. etc. Speed and the lightning chess, and chess problem and so and the endgame studies. There's so many things about chess. Because I do that. I don't make any money by doing this. But I like to promote chess and the chess clubs, because they just formed the Mount Maunganui Chess Club there. So I went there to boost them up. They got a terrific publicity in local papers. And
yeah, but could you play with these unique sort of chess sets, or don't you?
Well, I can play.
Game
Yes,
like
I can play, but I prefer the others. It's some are so huge you can't see another piece behind it.
Yeah.
But the best is to play the normal chess sets that they have.
Women play chess, don't they?
Yes.
You have your world championships for women as well?
Yes, the women have their play separate.
Why hasn't there been a world women's champion? Are they not as clever as men? I mean,
no.
You know, like in croquet, it is open men and women.
That's right.
They are all equal.
Yeah, well,
Why
in chess
aren't
they are
they
equal too. But the thing is that there's not so many women chess players as men chess players. But now is this Hungarian Polgars, three sisters. They're now it's 20, 17, and 14-year-olds. They are top, and that Judith Polgar, she probably will be one who challenges the men's title too. So it's just a number of there's more men playing chess than women. And
has a woman ever challenged?
Never been a challenger now.
Yeah.
There was one, Mrs. Stevenson. She was killed in the last day of war in London by a flying bomb. She was the best woman player.
Who are the top countries outside of Russia?
Yes, well, England now has proved itself to be the number 2 in the world, and it nearly beat Russia in one Olympiad. They finished just half a point behind. And then, of course, there used to be United States, of course, and Hungary, Yugoslavia. They are for quite a long time the Eastern Bloc countries were very strong. Now others are coming along too. It's hard to say.
What about New Zealand?
New Zealand, we finished last time 38 out of 107. There's 124 countries in the world who are members of the World Chess Federation.
Good God.
That's almost as many as the United Nations and the soccer.
Yeah, well, FIFA's got more members than the United Nations. They've got 168.
Yeah.
But you're actually closing in very quickly on the United Nations.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
And it's amazing. That's why Sir Ron Scott was amazed when he came and saw the Olympiad in Thessaloniki, that so many, and he got really excited when we played there against France. And I didn't play that time. You see, 4 players play, and I was resting last round. And a French fellow came to me and asked me, "Why aren't you playing? I played against France before. Why aren't you playing?" I said, "Because you are very naughty boys. You sank a ship in Auckland Harbour."
Yes, of course. Tell me, there's been history is dotted with very unusual incidences and people associated with the game of chess. In the time that you've been playing the game, or alternatively, stories that you might like to relate to some of the interesting things?
There's many stories about the comical stories about chess players and so on. There was one Hungarian, Barossi. He was first time played in chess tournament in Vienna. He went to a hotel and went for food, and there's one fellow Austrian got up and said to him in German, "Guten Appetit." That means good appetite. And of course he couldn't speak that. He answered Marossi. So next day again, Austrian fellow said, "Guten Appetit," and he said, "Marossi." He said, "There's something wrong." why will he introduce himself? So we asked another Hungarian, what does it mean, guten Appetit? Oh, that's good appetite. Oh, I see. So he went, third day he went and beat the Austrian to it and said to him, guten Appetit, and Austrian got up and said, Marossi.
All these great chess players are they fairly normal, or are they eccentric, or are they geniuses? I know I asked you this question before when we were talking about Bobby Fischer.
Well, they're the same as anybody else, because chess players come from all ways of,
walks of life, yeah.
Walks of life, and the different educations and the wealth and everything. They cut everybody through, because mostly 80% is skill in the game. It's not so much that huge brain power and so on, experience and so on. And sports, willpower to win, which covers all the chess.
Let me ask you, I don't want to insult the game of chess, but how would you compare it with drafts?
Well, it's a very similar board, but of course there are more chessmen on a board, and the drafts you play on in half the board, like on a dark squares. In chess you play on all 64 squares. So that means that chess is more complicated. It's related. Another game is related is a contract bridge.
Contract bridge?
Yeah, because you work out things. In bridge you have to memorize the moves, the cards that have been played. In chess it doesn't matter what you play, what's on the board and what happens in the future. That's the difference. But you have to work out. It's the same thing. Chess players are those people who like to solve little problems. The people who leave problems to somebody else, they will never make any good chess players. For instance, like three of us go in a refreshment place across the road here, for instance, and the bill comes $30. Each of us will put $10 in. Now the waiter takes the $30 over to the owner. He says, "Oh, that's a 10-pack of stuff. We'll give them $5 back." So he comes back. Waiter said, "How will I divide that $5? I put $2 in my pocket and give them $3. So everybody got $1 back, right?"
Yeah.
So we all paid $9 each. 3 times 9 is 27, and $2 what the waiter put in his pocket is $1 gone.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's not bad, is it?
Yeah. You have to something to work out.
Yeah, it is too.
It's a little problem.
Let's do this again. This is good. So you paid $30.
Yes.
And then the guy gives $3, gives $5
back. So
okay, the waiter takes two of that.
And he gives $3 back to 3 of us, so everybody gets $1 back. It's $9 you paid, isn't it? 3 times 9 is 27, and $2 what the waiter put in his pocket is 29.
That's good.
So anyway, that's little problems to think about.
That's not bad, is it?
That's very good to tell.
Can you solve everyday problems? Like if you have to put a washer in the taps leaking. I mean, can you do? I can't do those things.
Well, washer in the tap I have done, but I don't think I'm
I mean, you work these
very
things
expert
out.
on that. But yes, you've got to work out what you can. Well, you see, in chess you have to think first and then act. That's what education is. Dr. Faith, the Scottish champion, he said he designed bridges like Auckland Harbour Bridge. He designed the Dundee Road Bridge, if you've ever been to Scotland, and the Glasgow, the Kingston Bridge. That's his design. He doesn't build them, he just put it on a paper. And he said he will never take another engineer when he doesn't play chess, because that means he can. And he said in the school you only learn to memorize things, but in chess you have to think.
Yeah.
Before you act. If you don't think and act first, well, the other fellow will beat you.
If you had an IQ, you mentioned that Bobby Fischer had an IQ of 185, I think. If you had an IQ that high, would that mean that you could automatically be a great chess player?
No.
No.
You've got to have a talent for chess too. It's not necessarily that. It helps, of course. High IQ helps, but not only that. You've got to have determination, willpower to work and work hard on your game. Well, you see the golf players today, this morning, how they play these putts, and they don't just do it naturally. This is all trained, worked hard to get these. So skilled, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's chess. You've got to train yourself to be skilled.
Ortvin Sarapu is our guest tonight in Pembroke.
Now, prison 1 had 11 criminals to put into 10 cells into, they were all sort of a solitary confinement.
Right.
Well,
So one,
he got one over, you see. So what he did is he put the first two in the first cell, and then for time being, then he put a third one, put in the second, fourth one in the third, and so on. Ninth one into 8, 10th one into 9. Then he went back, took the first one from the first cell and put in the 10th cell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's in the mind, mate. I know how that one works too. But they're very interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's a little problems and little twisty things, you know. But people who is interested in this kind of solving problems, they will be good chess players too.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me, in the game itself, you talk about the Olympics, but they're not Olympics. You don't play chess in the Olympic Games, but you have your own Olympiad.
No, chess, because the chess professional and amateur was broken in 1928, so chess was no longer in the sport Olympic. But we have the Hamilton-Russell Cup. That is a world. It's called Chess Olympics because it's a world team event. 4 players and 2 reserves, and then we've been... First time New Zealand played in 1970. We finished 48th the first time we played. I was there too. And then, so that's now the next one, every 2 years, where we've been improving all the time. And then our first time in 1976, our women had a team. They finished dead last in Haifa. But since that, they are now in the middle field, and they're getting better. So you see, and of course the number of teams increasing now. 107 was last time, so I presume there will be more teams than that. Next one this November in Yugoslavia, we play Novi Sad by Belgrade.
So Chandler doesn't play for us then in these Olympics. He doesn't play for New Zealand.
Well, Chandler played for us. Last time he played for us was in Malta, 1980. Chandler played that time for us. I was board 1, 1978 in Buenos Aires, but 1980 Chandler was board 1 and I was board 2. So Chandler passed me. That's a lot. Next time he played for England because they had a lot of England matches with other countries, you see, and he lived in London. He still lives in London. So there's nothing much to play for New Zealand.
What do you consider to be your greatest achievement and greatest disappointment in the game of chess?
Well, the greatest is to play in the Interzonal in Tunisia when I qualified into the final 24 and played Bobby Fischer there, and all the other grandmasters there, the world's top. And then, winning the Asian Championship, East Asia Pacific Championship before that, and playing in Olympiad.
Can we just go back to that when you made the final 24 and you played Fischer in that? Do you remember that game?
Yes, very
vividly?
Good. Every move. I should have drawn that game, and that was analyzed and so, and I missed the chance. I went actually for a win. I knew if I draw, well, that's all right. But you see, I thought myself, if we play Fischer and I play 100 games, he will win 99. I win 1. So maybe that was the game where I went. So I went for a win, and I just missed.
You could relate it, couldn't you, on what we saw today on the 15th hole when Jack Nicklaus was on for 2 on a par 5.
Yeah.
You go for it. There's no second prize, is there? If you can it, you've got an eagle. You're in with a chance.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Nicklaus. I thought he's a terrific guy, terrific player. So because I'm older too, and he's older. So
no, but that's true, isn't it? A draw doesn't mean anything.
No.
Truly, it doesn't, does it? I mean, who remembers second?
Yeah, no, it's not. But if I would have beaten Fischer there, that would be something for my whole life to remember. I won against Bogolyubov, who played twice in the World Championship against Alakine, and I beat him 1949 in Europe, and that was my great event. I managed to beat him, but otherwise I drew with Spassky and I drew with Korchnoi. And I lost to Kasparov, which Kasparov showed how I could have drawn in the last few moves. I had short of time, and so I have enjoyed playing. Result is not that Spassky was asked which are your best games. He said the ones I lost, his best games, because he analyzes them. And so when I lose a game, I will study it and play over about 10 times to find the reason why I lost.
But then, can you remember in later games why you
Well,
lost?
it's all recorded,
I mean,
yeah.
yes, but do you make the same mistake twice?
Well, I try not to. Yeah, sometimes you do, but I try to not. That's why when I make a mistake, I will make sure that I don't make the same type of mistake.
Yeah, so
I never get the same game.
No, because there would never be a computer that could tell you how many combinations there are.
No, it's impossible.
Billions.
Yes. There's a the first 10 moves is a number of 28 numbers in a row. That's been worked out. 28. I don't know how many millions is that? 28.
Well, a million has got 6 noughts, so there's 7. And it's 28, and it's on the first, how many moves?
The first 10 moves.
First 10 moves, yeah, well.
So even if you know but then you have to sort on which is good and which is bad, which is medium.
When you know you're beaten, what do you do? I mean,
well,
we'll just say with Bobby Fischer, that game against Bobby Fischer, how many moves had gone when you thought, this is a pretty hopeless case?
Well, at that time was 38 moves. And then I saw I can't carry on, but it's hopeless because it's quite easy for him to win because he's grandmaster and world champion.
And do you resign straight away, or do you think?
No, I resigned against Kasparov when I was in Lucerne, '82. When I lost a pawn after 5 hours play, I lost a pawn after adjournment. That time we had adjournment, and all the Karpov and Kasparov and others analyzed how they could have won a pawn. And when I lost the pawn and I had no compensation, I resigned because it's only wearing myself out because he's so good he won't let me slip out. It's only I'm just wasting my time.
Are there games where unbelievable mistakes have been made when the guy has got the game well and truly won?
Well, it has happened. Even world champion Kasparov now lost to one fella Gulko from the United States recently. That was a surprise because he usually doesn't lose. He loses only one game a year. And after playing hundreds of games against the top players. So chess is so difficult, even world champion is not perfect.
Yes, I was interested today in looking at statistics on Karpov, for example, that he plays 45.2 competitive games a year, and of the 32 tournaments he plays, he wins 26 of them. It's not a bad performance.
That's a very good, His different style, his positional style of player, while Kasparov likes more complicated, sharp, combinative style of play.
Our guest in the studio tonight is Ortvin Sarapu.
He was on...
Ortvin Sarapu is our guest in the studio tonight. We're talking about... So you had a round-the-world yachtsman that wanted to what? How to win it?
He was Estonian. He was on a ship, on the Finnish ship, Belmont, too.
Oh, yeah.
And he rang me up.
Another tobacco company, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, and he said he was in Finland racing, and that skipper said to him, how would you like to go on a around the world trip? He said, yes. And his wife cried out straight away. She started crying. So his wife was flown here too. So he rang up. He saw me playing New Zealand Championship. It was excellent. Met him, and now I think they finished quite high there. Belmont. They got two or three New Zealand.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. It's no, they're not right up at the top, but I mean the Kiwis
but 3 New Zealanders joined there.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Ortvin, you've been in New Zealand for a long time now, and you've been very, very involved in sport outside of chess. It's what do you prefer outside of chess as regards sport?
Well, when I was young, I used to play basketball. When I came to New Zealand, I played in Christchurch. I was 1 year in Christchurch. I played for a club, and I was kind of a rep then.
Yeah.
I managed, because Estonia is very good in basketball. And if you know, the Estonians were in the Soviet team with Lithuanians and Latvians. There was no Russians there, and they beat the Americans, American Negros in the Olympiad.
Well, when was that? 1972?
Oh, last Olympiad.
Oh, last one. Yeah. So, no Russians in there.
That's right. They won there was American was very tall, 2 meters 20. 15 years, and then of course Lithuanian fellow who they tried to get independence. He was 10 centimeters taller than him.
What's going to happen with Armenia and that with over there?
Lithuania.
Outside of sport, I'm just interested in your thoughts.
Lithuania. Well, of course, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania was sold by Hitler to Stalin, and now the 2 generations grown up, they want to break away because they have been getting bad deal from the Moscow. In Lithuania, there's more Lithuanians in the United States than in Lithuania, and they are very strong Catholics, while Estonians, Latvians are Lutherans. So Pope is on a Lithuanian side, and so, and Gorbachev wants to make democracy. Well, Lithuanians voted for independence, so why doesn't he recognize their will of the people and get to some kind of a deal? I mean, the Soviet Union is so strong, and Lithuania is only a little country of 3 million people. Estonia is only 1 million, 1.5 million. Latvia is 2 million. I mean, that's nothing.
Do you think that what's happened in Romania and what's happened between East and West Germany and what is happening now in the breakdown of communism, do you think it's history?
Yes, the trouble is that when last year I was first time in Estonia after 45 years. There was a Paul Keres, Estonian grandmaster, who was for 30 years in the first 2 or 3 in the world, and he died in 1975. And his memorial tournament, I was invited to play there. That's the first time I went to play there. I never lost to any Russian or Estonian. I lost one game, and that was against Danish champion. And that was because we had a few drinks with my schoolmates night before, whom I haven't met for 45 years.
Well, that's
so you see, the thing is that they want to have, the new generation want to have their own. Shops are empty, there's nothing in the shops. And the Russians come from Moscow and Leningrad or Petersburg, real name, come and buy potatoes in Estonia. And Estonia is related cousins in Finland who are independent. They are 9th place in the world on living standard. I don't know what New Zealand is, which place?
33.
Oh, God. And Finland is on
We
the
were
9th.
3rd.
Yeah, New Zealand used to be first.
3rd, I think. Yeah.
And then, of course, Estonians are so far behind, and it's not their fault. It's because of the big brother looking on and grabs everything, telling us all these ideas of communism and paradise and workers' paradise. Because in paradise, the angels don't eat and run around in nighties. So workers' paradise, and so it's the same, except they haven't got any wings.
You put a lovely interpretation on that.
Yes, well, the Russians are not themselves, they're fed up, and they want to change. But what will it change? I hope it's not a bloodshed change, and it's no good to any. Actually, maybe in the future will be one Europe, and gradually work into the common market, everybody, and have a peace instead of Europe kill each other in the last 2 world wars and put the European culture down. I hope so. Well, it's my philosophy.
Well,
I'm not a politician.
It's been great. It really has, sincerely, having a chat with you tonight. It's an eye-opener. It's the first time we've ever done a program on chess, but there's a lot of stories out of there, from the game, and found them very interesting tonight. Thank you very much for the time that you've given Radio Pacific. Ortvin Sarapu.